At my wedding, my brother threw champagne, smashed my cake, yelled. I stayed silent and shocked all. My wedding day was supposed to be the one day in my life when everything felt peaceful, a day where love outshined every wound, every memory, every scar. But instead, it became the day my brother humiliated me in front of everyone I loved. It didn't start with chaos. It started with a smile, his fake, forced smile, the kind he used whenever he was planning something. For years, my brother had been the center of my family, the golden child, the success, the pride of our parents. And I was simply the background character, the one who never shined enough to be noticed, but always bright enough to be blamed. Our childhood was full of moments he ruined for me, birthdays, school awards, family gatherings, always making sure the spotlight returned to him. But I thought adulthood would change things. I thought marriage, maturity, and years of distance might heal old patterns. I was wrong. Very wrong. The moment he entered the wedding hall, I felt the tension shift. He walked in loudly, dramatically, like he wanted the room to acknowledge him instead of the bride and groom. I kept quiet. I didn't want drama on my day. But the look he gave me, cold, jealous, almost hateful, made me realize something. He hadn't come to celebrate. He had come to destroy. As the ceremony ended and the guests began to cheer, he stepped forward with a champagne glass in his hand. Everyone assumed he was going to make a toast. And for one small second, I hoped, truly hoped, that maybe, just maybe, he had changed. But then he raised his glass, smirked, and threw the champagne straight at me. The crowd gasped. My bride froze. My mother covered her mouth. The room went silent in shock. The cold liquid dripping down my suit wasn't as painful as the familiarity of the humiliation. It was like every wound he ever caused had returned in one single moment. I stood there frozen, feeling the weight of every eye in the hall. Before anyone could react, he stormed toward the wedding cake, the one we carefully selected, decorated, designed, our symbol of joy. With a loud yell, he slammed his fist into it, knocking the entire cake onto the floor. The room erupted in screams. Some guests backed away, some shouted, some tried to hold him back, but he pushed everyone aside. He pointed at me and yelled, loud enough for the whole hall to hear. You don't deserve any of this. None of it. The hall went silent again. My bride looked heartbroken. My father looked furious. My mother looked terrified. But me? I felt nothing. Nothing at all. Because in that moment, watching him lose control in front of 200 people, I realized something. This wasn't about me. This was about him. His jealousy. His insecurity. His need to destroy anything that wasn't his. My entire life, I had reacted to him, argued, cried, defended myself, tried to explain, tried to win approval. But this time? No. This time, I stayed silent. Not out of weakness. But out of power. He expected me to scream back, to fight, to break down. He wanted chaos. He needed attention. But I just stood there, quietly watching him unravel in front of everyone. My silence was louder than his shouting. People turned and looked at him differently. Not as the golden child. But as a grown man who couldn't control his jealousy. Whispers started spreading across the room. What's wrong with him? Why would he ruin his brother's wedding? This is disgusting. And for the first time in my life, the judgment wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed at him. He kept yelling, pointing at me like I was the villain, like I stole something from him. But the more he screamed, the more pathetic he looked. My bride held my hand. I squeezed hers gently, telling her without words. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Because what no one knew, not even my parents, was that months before the wedding, he had threatened to ruin it. He had said painful things about my relationship, my career, my life. He had mocked me, belittled me, tried to convince my parents not to attend. But I stayed quiet. I let him believe I was the same old brother he could push around. He was about to learn how wrong he was. I didn't react. I didn't speak. I didn't defend myself. I simply watched him destroy himself with his own hands. And then, right when the hall thought things couldn't get worse, he made one final mistake. One final outburst. That would change everything. As he lunged toward me, shouting, angry, shaking with rage. I stepped back, calm as ever, and thought to myself. I thought my wedding was ending in disaster. But this was only the beginning. Because he had no idea what I had prepared for this exact moment. And what happened next shocked everyone. Even more than his tantrum. The hall was frozen. Guests stood in disbelief, my bride held onto my arm, and my brother, red-faced, trembling, drunk on jealousy, kept shouting as if the world owed him something. But me? I didn't move. I didn't blink. I didn't give him the reaction he wanted. My silence made him even angrier. He pointed at me, spit flying as he yelled. You stole everything from me. The attention, the respect, even them. He waved his hand wildly toward our parents. My parents looked humiliated. The golden child they bragged about for years was now embarrassing them in front of 200 people. Every whisper in the hall was a knife slicing his ego. He stumbled forward, pushing chairs, knocking over glasses, screaming at anyone who tried to calm him. Two of my cousins held him back, but he kept fighting them like a wild animal. Everyone could see it clearly now. This wasn't a wedding disaster. This was years of entitlement collapsing in public. My bride whispered. Why isn't he happy for you? I looked at her with a sad smile. Because he never learned how to be. Everyone was expecting me to explode, to hit him, to drag him out, something dramatic. But instead, I signaled the DJ to stop the music. The lights dimmed slightly. I walked to the stage, slow, calm, completely composed, while every eye followed me. My brother screamed. Don't you dare go up there. Don't you embarrass me. People actually laughed at that. Embarrass him? He had destroyed the cake, ruined the ceremony, thrown alcohol on me, yet he still thought the world revolved around him. I reached the microphone. For a moment, I didn't speak. Just stood there, watching my brother struggle in my cousin's grip, breathless and furious. Then I said, I know you're all shocked. But I'm not. The hall went silent instantly. I continued. This isn't new. He has ruined every important moment of my life since childhood. Every achievement, every celebration, he had to break it. My brother screamed. Liar. No one listened to him. I kept going. I stayed silent for years. I forgave him. I excused him. I told myself he would change. But today, he reminded me of the truth. I looked straight into his wild, angry eyes. Some people don't ruin your day. They ruin your life, one event at a time. Gasps filled the hall. My brother froze, stunned. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't emotional. I was simply telling the truth, something he never expected. Then I said the line that shifted the whole room. Months before this wedding, he told me he would destroy it. So I prepared for today. The hall erupted with whispers. My brother's face went pale. He stuttered. What did you do? I lifted my hand. At my signal, the hall doors opened. 2 security guards walked in. Not for the guests. Not for the troublemakers. For him. The crowd parted as the guards approached my brother. He looked around, desperate, shocked, betrayed. You called security on your own brother? I shook my head calmly. No. I hired them weeks ago, for only one reason. To protect my wife, my in-laws, and our guests from you. His entire expression collapsed. He didn't look like a golden child anymore. He looked like a man who finally realized the consequences of his actions. As the guards held him firmly, he yelled. You're heartless. I walked closer, looked him in the eyes, and said softly. No. I'm done being your victim. The guests applauded, not loudly, but respectfully. For the first time in my life, the crowd was on my side. My parents stood speechless. My mother cried quietly. My father looked away, ashamed of the son he defended his entire life. My brother was dragged out of the hall, still yelling, but no one listened anymore. And when the doors finally closed behind him, the hall felt lighter, like a storm had passed. But none of them knew. The real shock was still coming. Because what I revealed next changed everything. The room was frozen, every guest staring at me as if waiting for an explosion. My brother stood there panting, chest heaving, champagne dripping from his hand, and my ruined wedding cake lying like a fallen monument between us. Everyone expected me to scream, cry, or lash out. But I didn't move. The silence stretched so long that the hum of the ceiling lights suddenly sounded loud. And that's when I saw it. My brother wasn't just angry. He was terrified. Terrified of losing control. Terrified of losing attention. Terrified because, for the first time in our lives, someone else was the center of the stage. He opened his mouth to yell again, but I raised my hand calmly, stopping him without a single word. My voice, when it finally came, was steady and cold. Are you finished? My mother gasped. My father pushed his chair back. My brother blinked rapidly like he'd been slapped without being touched. Don't talk to me like. I wasn't talking to you, I said. He froze. I turned to the guests. Everyone, I'm sorry for the interruption. The staff will bring out the replacement cake shortly. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. Replacement cake? As in, I was prepared for this? Because I was. Because this wasn't my first encounter with his jealousy. Because he had ruined birthdays, holidays, even one of my job promotions by creating a public scene. Because this time, I refused to let him ruin the biggest day of my life. I motioned to the wedding coordinator. She nodded, already wheeling in the second cake, a backup I had secretly ordered. White, elegant, and untouched. The entire hall erupted into murmurs. My brother looked around, betrayal morphing into disbelief. You planned this? You thought I'd ruin your wedding? I didn't flinch. No. I hoped you wouldn't. But I knew you might. He stepped back like he'd been stabbed. For once, he had nothing to say. My parents looked horrified, because for the first time, they saw the truth they had ignored my whole life. But I wasn't done. I walked to the mic and addressed the room, my voice calm but carrying weight. I want to thank everyone for being here. And I also want to say something important. My brother's eyes widened. My parents stiffened. Family is not defined by blood, I said. It's defined by respect. And support. And love. And on this new journey I'm beginning, I refuse to carry old wounds into my future. The hall was silent. I turned to my brother. You need help. Real help. And until you get it, you are not part of my life. Gasps. Whispers. Someone covered their mouth behind me. My brother's face collapsed, anger melting into panic. You're cutting me out? On your wedding day? You're choosing him over family? I looked at my husband, then back at him. I'm choosing peace. My brother lunged forward as if to argue again, but two of my cousins quietly stepped in, blocking him. My father finally stood, but this time, instead of supporting him, he placed a hand on his shoulder. Son, enough. That had never happened. Not once. And the shock on my brother's face said he realized it too. My mother finally whispered, please leave. You've embarrassed yourself enough. He stumbled back, eyes wet, chest rising sharply as if he couldn't breathe. For a second, I saw a flash of the boy he used to be, the one who wanted love but only knew how to demand it. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Then he simply turned and walked out. The doors closed behind him with a soft thud. And the entire wedding hall burst into applause. Not because he left, but because I finally stood up. My husband reached for my hands, eyes full of pride. You did the right thing, he whispered. I wasn't sure. My heart ached, and part of me grieved. But another part, the part that had been silent my whole life, finally felt free. The music started again. Guests returned to their seats. Laughter slowly filled the air. And as the new cake was rolled forward, I took a deep breath and whispered to myself. This is my life now. My rules. My peace. And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it.